p.m. We call the roll. Councilmember Nakamura.
She went
Oh,
to the restroom. Sorry.
jumped too soon, didn't I? I know she's here.
Good.
On the count present. Mayor Pro Tem Lindamood.
Here.
Councilmember Wheat.
Here.
The mayor is here. Councilmember Dodson. Here. Councilmember Kelly.
Here.
Councilmember Rigney.
Here.
So we have 5 items on the work session tonight, so we started a little early. Let me comment for you guys that may be watching us on video that we are set up different tonight. So we've set up so we could be socially distant during this meeting. So we have each of us marked only the council and city secretary at the table. We have the chairs around the room separated out. So
Sorry, I thought
there
it
you are,
started at
Kennedy
5:30.
President. I knew you were here. And so the new rule from Governor Abbott basically is masks are required, but if you're socially distanced, they're not. So we are socially distanced. Anyway, we're in a meeting or talking, so we don't wear a mask anywhere. So with that, we're going to go to the first agenda item, which is follow-up discussion on Highway 26 elements. Nadine?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Adrienne Lothry, Assistant City Manager. So as Mayor mentioned, we're back for another conversation about the State Highway 26 vertical elements. We have a lot of really exciting things to talk about tonight about State Highway 26 beautification project. Tonight at the work session, it'll be focused on the gateway elements, and then later this evening at your regular meeting, we will have on your agenda for approval a contract for the construction of the median and right-of-way portion of the project. So again, this portion will be focused on the gateways, and we had a really wonderful conversation at the last City Council work session about the gateway elements. Mesa gave a presentation, and I think there were some additional questions and information the council wanted to see, particularly in better understanding the perspectives from how that height at the southern gateway was viewed. So they've got a presentation and then a video that they're going to walk through to address some of those questions that were brought up at the last work session. And then once they conclude that short presentation, we can kind of open it back up for the dialogue and see how the council would like to move forward. All right.
Thanks, Adrienne. Mayor, Council, good to see y'all again. So jumping right into it. Just starting off again, point of reference with the pastoral gateway.
One question on that.
Yes.
Is there another wall on the north side of John McCain there? I didn't remember seeing that before. Was it?
Yeah, so this is as it's been since December 2019. So there's 3 walls on, when we talk about the, yes, north side of John McCain, there's 3 walls gradually rising from about 4 feet up to about 12 feet.
Okay.
And then it hops across, and then there's one wall that's bisected by the tower.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah. Okay.
In Main
For some
Street.
reason, it looked different in that perspective.
Oh, yeah, no worries. No, yeah.
We didn't usually see the wall
Mhm.
from the other. It just, so that's the reason I brought it up.
Oh, yeah, no, just, we look at this thing enough, you start to see it differently too, you show it enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, that's how it's kind of gradiating upward. Main Street, one of the comments last meeting was regarding the signage, right-hand corner, and possibly looking at different signage alternates, maybe something more wayfinding, possibly internal to the village.
Are you talking about the street?
The,
See the little 8 square
Signs
rectangles
right
on the
there.
Oh,
side?
that just appeared. It wasn't there.
Well,
Was there?
it had
They
been
were
there, and we're
there.
talking about
Yeah,
moving.
it wasn't, then it was, and then we've since removed it. And again, it's part of that dialogue. Again, trying to get it right, try to go back and forth. So,
See? It was not there a minute ago.
right. So,
Kathy said it was, and I'm like, no, it wasn't.
I didn't know you meant like a minute ago. I thought
No,
you
I
meant like
meant
last
like a
meeting. I'm
minute
sorry.
ago.
You guys should all
Literally,
jump on
yes,
board and just
yes.
say, it never was there, what are you talking about?
but it originally,
See
when we originally presented this a while back, we originally had it without signage, and it was discussed about maybe integrating signage. We explored that. Now we're going back to not having the signage be associated with the physical gateway itself, but having it be, and this would be a separate of the gateway project, be more internal to the village. So as you turn in, you'd have a secondary signage element that would be for those tenants represented in the village. So what we're recommending at this point in reference to the comments last meeting, and also what we feel is most appropriate, is to not have the signage directly associated with the gateway element itself. Let the towers be the signage to the village proper, and then have the more tenant signage be as wayfinding element internal And feel free to interrupt and chime in on these specific elements. The next thing we're going to be moving forward to is the Creekside Gateway.
The reason that sign was such a conversation was that previously there had been a sign that was on the south side of the intersection that was kind of a temporary, poorly done sign. And then there was also the existing Pineapple Monument structure that has signs on it. And so the thought was, limiting the number of signs or looking more toward wayfinding within the development itself. And so last conversation was, let's look more at wayfinding. Once you're in the village, let's make these monuments the marker that identifies the village. And so that's a way to advertise or promote rather than worrying about a sign. And so that some of the businesses obviously would be part of that conversation, because there are 2 or 3 key businesses that would be the most noted as far as expressing concerns.
So for the Creekside Gateway, part of the conversation was obviously regarding the height of the tower. We know there's been a crane study out there, which we have some photos of as a point of reference as well. We're showing a plan view. What the plan view does is really kind of help clearly communicate how close the tower is to the road, which is a factor relative to how that perspective view will operate and as you perceive it coming down 26. So you can see it's about 44 feet. And it's plus or minus, as we all develop the design moving forward. If it needs to shift a little bit, it may. But as we've been showing, it's 44 feet from the road, and it is level with the road. So we will be grading and raising that up. And you can see from the view of the tower in terms of view shed, there are some trees as you move down the corridor. So that perspective is also playing into it as well. Trees that may be close to the right-of-way or in the right-of-way further up could block it further down, and we'll get into that in a little bit more detail. This is if you're straight across 26 going southbound, looking at it just for reference. This is a perspective view shot, so you're kind of looking up, and you can see it relative to the tree canopy behind. We went and we verified our tree canopy as it was shown. That was a comment that was brought up, and we've scaled that appropriately to as accurately as possible with the computer rendering show it to the true proportions. And this is just for reference. Another clarification, when we say 90, 70, and 50, what we're really talking about is when you factor in the plinth height from the road as a 4-foot element, and then take away the finial, which really the finial it's a detail, but it doesn't really meaningfully,
Spike.
the spike, correct, contribute to the volume mass that you would see relative to height. You end up with about an 85, a 66, and a 47-foot tower proper. Just for clarification purposes. And then the lantern element, just for reference. It was great having the crane out there. We appreciate that. It helps us as well, just from the, just really being able to see it and move around it in space outside of the model, which we've been moving around. So just flagging it just for a point of reference, relative to the light pole, that was part of the conversation. How high is the light pole relative to the tower, and just from a point of reference. So that's just an example of what that scaling-wise looks from that perspective. But it is important to note that this isn't the true perspective that we're going to be seeing it. So we put this together as well, just again as a reference from verifying what we're showing, which we know is accurate in our model, but as it translates to what we're seeing here, so we can all see what it really means relative to the true canopy. And you can see some of the trees. The trees, they're going to come and go. The tower's going to last longer than a lot of these trees will. So being able to accommodate that canopy fluctuation, but you can see as it exists right now. Then overlaying the tower with that as well, just as, again, for point of reference. The flags, when I was out there taking those photos, there was a wind, so there was a little bit of wind to it, so it may be slightly different, but that's the only piece there.
One question, is there, 44 feet is quite a ways in.
Mm-hmm. And that's so part of the reason we have it set as 44 feet is to give the space for the trailhead component. And again, as we develop it, we can definitely slide it around, but the proportion and scale of the bridge relative to the tower. When we view this, the bridge is as much of the part of the gateway experience as the tower. So having that appropriate scale relationship, that's kind of where we landed, but it can slide around if it needed
Okay.
to.
I think one thing too also it's important is there's a sign element, and so there's a length of distance
Yeah,
from the
to
right
make
of
sure
way
you
to
can
the
see
tower.
the sign.
Correct.
I understand.
Mhm.
So we need to pull it back enough, otherwise the
Good
sign will
point.
be within the tree
Okay.
grove.
Sure.
Long name.
I know.
Yeah.
We can shorten it to Seaville.
So what we do have is, as Adrian mentioned, we have a video we would like to show you guys, just because it really presents it the way everyone's going to see it. Is that video?
Yes, we've got that.
Perfect.
Are you going to have to come back to this place in your presentation?
Yes, we have one more slide, which is just discussing the schedule moving forward. It's less critical than what we're going to be going through with this. Not a lot of detail we're going to be going over with that.
I'm looking for a reduction key here.
You can probably just end show and open it back up if we need to. There you go.
And the video also helps present, just a scale from a distance and the moving perspective. This is approaching Brown Trail. And you can see that kind of foreground canopy and all the stuff in front. The shorter you go, and this is Brown Trail. It's close, but you'd like to see it from farther distance, because Cheeks Barger is really where you start to kind of formally arrive into Colleyville.
Thank you, Cameron.
Hard to miss. It's great.
Again, and we're really trying to, come up with something that really celebrates the entry for the city, what we think is the most appropriate way. And that kind of helps give the plan some context in terms of the space you want to have to be able to move around it. So just
That's
wanted to,
helpful.
Can we
different
see
way.
that one more time? Can we see it one more time?
Yes, sure.
Well,
Hey, you close your eyes.
You close your eyes.
Open your.
I want to see it twice.
The letters on the sign are about 30 inches tall.
Okay.
The sign from the curb is about 7 to 8 feet tall.
Kathy running on that bridge.
That was me.
At that height, should we consider putting a lightning rod on it?
Yeah, I think there will be
Yeah,
lightning
there'll be
protection
lightning
as part of the
protection.
I
design.
think so too.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. 90 feet is higher than anything around it, that's for sure.
And this one, it's so close to that woodland, and which we really want because it
Yeah.
dovetails into that nature center and what will be the
It's
trailhead.
nice, yeah,
So it really wants, again, we've looked at it a lot of different ways. and-
sure.
That convinced me it needs to be 90 feet.
That convinced me.
Absolutely.
I came in here at 70, but that convinced
That
me.
was interesting. I didn't know, that dimension, the rocks only go to, or the stone only goes to 65. So that's,
Well, and that's the thing, and as we've been saying 90 foot, we realized we
Yeah.
weren't necessarily communicating clearly enough with respect to what the expectations are. And again, with the crane, you know, what's great about the crane is you can see the height, but you don't see the volume.
Yeah.
Right.
So, you know, that's where we felt like the video really kind of
It does, it
That is-
helps a
kind
lot.
of put it all.
Great.
Yes.
Well,
That's
one
that's
helps
how
a
it's
lot.
gonna look.
One side of it, the first 8 feet is grade above, enough to
Yeah.
get
Sure.
above the railing for the sign, but you're not paying all this stone
Yeah.
cost clear down to 8 feet. So we're
Right.
picking
Sure.
up on piers up to the lighthouse part of it.
That's great.
It was a great video, helpful.
Very good.
So
Very
really,
helpful.
next steps for, you know, us looking for council direction is based on what the council is comfortable with moving forward with. We will then direct Mesa to move forward with proceeding with developing construction documents. So it's just similar to how we did the median and right-of-way package. They will develop construction documents and place that out to bid. For example, if the council were ready to make a decision regarding the gateway elements, to greenlight the development of those construction documents, Mesa would take the next couple of months to finalize those. I anticipate we would probably place those out to bid
Yeah, and-
sometime this fall.
Correct. And going back to the schedule, see if I don't mess this one up like I did last time. Looking at towards November, December, you know, depending upon how we go through the design, if there's a little bit more dialogue we need to have, but that's the current targeted schedule, so correct, kind of late fall, going out to bid. And then the construction would actually overlap with the current corridor, and that was one of the goals too. That way we keep that
Get it done.
rolling,
Sure.
kind of going through it.
Mr. Mayor, just a question. One of the things that, you know, assuming that the direction is to go forward, one of the things we may want to consider, and it's a question that goes to the Main Street intersection, if you could put that one back up on the screen. The question of, we talked about before about identifying that street as obviously an entrance to the village, but it's also the gateway to City Hall and to the library.
Right.
And so the question that I had, is there any interest in, and I used the wrong word when I say it, so I apologize, signage on the monuments that is not signage, but it is maybe etched stone insert or something that relates to the city's presence, in other words, you know. I mean, we talked about the plaza being, you know, Plaza City Hall or City Plaza, and that has kind of taken on an identity that's kind of cool. Do we need to work in any type of identifier on these monuments that
I would think so.
are part of that? And so, you know, that's obviously something they could work in their design, but it's not something that's changeable, it's an inset stone, it's,
Right.
but, you know, City Hall and Library, this is gonna be the city complex for quite some time,
Are
and
you,
so.
are you referring to something like a neighborhood entrance where there's the lighter background with
Well-
the darker letters?
And these guys are the artists, so they could give advice, but you could actually, it could be something that is, you know, somehow, you know, in the stone or part of the stone, or it's some type of a marker that's, could even be along these walls. It's something that,
It would be typical in a lot of, in towns and cities, always had that mark of civicness of their town. It can be a mark, a logo, a combination of different things, or it can be the name. And I think you're exactly right, Jerry. I think it would be something we'd be doing some studies with, but doing it in a period kind of level of using the stone would be very appropriate, and not so much as you would see, I think
Okay, so
the idea of
different.
being a subdivision, we want it to look very civic, you know?
I think once you get inside, because then it's the identifier.
Yeah.
My business is in City Plaza, or I'm going to City Plaza, I'm just using that term, where City Hall and Library is. And then once they get inside, we can use wayfinding signs for businesses or
Sure.
for additional information, but just a nice, the two on the north and south identify you're entering Colleyville.
Right.
And this should identify something equally important, that city services are here, or that this is a, and why did we identify this street? And so, there's a
Yeah, city
reason.
does
we
on
want
one
to
and
identify
Colleyville on the other one.
Stonework.
It's
So
probably good.
we'd
Get
be
rid of that.
coming forward with a number of studies, because like, this was early concept, so the next step is to do
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Ornamentation,
Good idea.
Dive into the detail.
in the detail, so.
That tower right there, is that a 70?
Yeah, right at about. I think it's closer to 65 to the roof, and then you've got the finial component.
Okay, so we're about 45 to the top of the stone, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, probably, yeah, about 40,
That's about what the tree height was up there, that's all. So we'd be
So-
sticking up with a tree height.
So my opinion is, I think I'm ready to move forward with that.
Yeah, I think it looks great.
So we're going
Documents.
with the 90?
Yeah.
Is that what
Yeah.
everybody's on?
I like 90 for all, yeah.
You're doing it for all of them? The 90
Yeah,
on all of them?
yeah, well,
I'm
I
gonna
mean,
have to be a little
they're-
contrary.
no, they're not all 90.
No,
Okay.
Correct.
70.
Oh, that
Yeah,
one
this is
we looked
70.
at was 90.
Yes.
This one's
Yeah.
70 and the other one.
So what do we got here?
No.
We got a 75, and I believe that one on the right is about a 50, 55. And then the pastoral was at about 75 as well. And again, the pastoral has a wide opening.
It's wide
So the
open.
presentation's
See
different,
it.
so it doesn't need to be as tall as the Creekside, which has that canopy really encroaching, so it's tighter constraints. So we feel very comfortable with the heights on all of those, and we
Yeah.
definitely recommend the 90 for the Creekside because of that proximity and
And that's
scale.
what I meant.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
just to be clear, it's a good question.
Get on
Yes,
with it.
that's.
So can you repeat the size on the north end, the height?
70 or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, 70, 75. Again, we're playing with the finer details once it gets refined, but it is around that 75 max height on that. It's between 70 and 75.
And just for clarity, one more time, that's about a 45-foot tower with a 20-foot window or whatever we call that on top, lantern on top. And then you also have I guess I'm not sure if that's a spike or a lightning.
Yeah, I have,
Are they
I
sure?
have.
You're
Yes,
counting that
exactly.
in
And that will range anywhere from 5 to 6, 7 feet.
but you're adding that all into the total
Sure.
calculation?
To the height,
Okay.
And I have.
I don't think he added the spike on top, I think he just took it to the top of the lantern.
To the actual rooftop, the mass.
Okay.
Because it's hard to see it's not legible at a distance to see the spike.
So I've got the facts, just so we're real clear. 70-foot tower for the pastoral,
That's what I thought.
and that's a 12-foot lantern. So net that out, you're gonna be 58 to the stone. And again, we are level. This one's actually slightly graded up from the road just because we really wanna present that meadow as you lead up to it. So it's actually, tower's gonna be slightly shorter than that when we do the final grading, but 70 tower, 12-foot lantern. Then the Main Street is 65 for the tower and the lantern going up to the roof, and 49 to the bottom of the lantern for the Main
Sure,
Street.
that makes sense.
Yes.
And what's the smaller tower there?
50.
50,
Yes.
It's 50 feet.
55, something like that.
45 or so. I mean, the top of the stone on that one's, it said 45.
I think, I'm with you on the way you have it now, because if we go too much taller in the center and then on the north end, it's gonna look really funky, I think.
Yeah,
But
right.
I understand why on the 90 on the other end. I still am a 70 guy on that end, but the 90, I mean, the rendition really convinced me that those trees are extremely tall on that end, and like you say, you're
Yeah.
kicking it off to the side and having it jetted up. If it was rock the whole way, I'd say no way, but because it has that lantern on top, I think it actually breaks it up and makes it look a little
It
different.
does.
Mhm.
It
To
does.
where it looks,
Right, and that's the thing, that's
It
one of
adds
the
a lot.
reasons we had this too. It's really because it's the proportion, it's how big does the lantern need to be appropriate to the scale of the tower relative to
Sure.
the views, and this just kind of helps break it down a little bit.
It does.
And again, from a cost perspective, with the corridor coming in so well, from a bidding perspective, and then also the cost value of, once you get the base and the shaft and all of that from the tower, the cost to go high is really it's not like exponential relative to tower, so there's value in going, once you already have the tower, to go higher. The cost is not as much.
I think once we get all the poles cleaned up through here, all the droop lines down through there, this will just add a really good character. Many questions that I've been getting is, I know this doesn't have to really do with the towers, but it's all the stuff that we have going down 26, how cluttered up it looks.
Yeah.
But in reality, all that stuff's gonna be disappearing eventually, and this will actually be set out by itself, and I think it'll look really pretty as an element.
And Mayor Pro Tem Linnemood, one of the reasons why, and this is one of the things we want to keep reminding, one of the reasons why we spend so much time focusing on the median with the larger trees and the beautiful landscaping is because we knew on the Parkway, we really didn't have the ability to go with large trees.
Right.
And so the large trees and the whole focus is drawing you to the center rather than to the sides, and that's not in place right now. And so that's gonna dramatically change the look of that corridor when you're driving down the street, because you're gonna be drawn, the ornamentals be on the side, and that's great for eye level and colors and variety, as, of course, you're looking for businesses and things, but the real value is gonna be on that median.
And for one other thing, for clarity also, this is TIF funded. This is not something that, I mean, this is money that's already been set aside for this specific areas. There's only so many places that we can use TIF funding for.
Yep.
And so I know there was a concern about how we would use this money somewhere else, but this is designed, this is what it's been for since 1998. Is that right, the TIF fund, is that when it was kicked in?
TIF fund.
Yeah, so this is where it's been
Yeah.
allocated for. Okay.
Yeah, and I think most of you probably heard by now that we received some really good news. I think maybe I've commented individually to several of you that the bids came back very positively. So when we talk about that later this evening, Mesa's projected estimate for the median and right-of-way portion of the project, all of our bids came in under, and we're actually recommending and have the ability to still come in under budget and bake 2 full years of maintenance for all of it into the contract.
Okay.
So we're in a
That's great.
really positive position.
That's wonderful.
And also, one of the options that's been discussed is if we go forward with these vertical elements, actually bidding the north section, north of John McCain as an alternate.
Yes.
And so that provides the option to kind of segment that improvement and forego it if it is not cost effective or doesn't have the benefit that we believe that it could have as part of the bidding process. So
Yeah, it still gives you those same levers where if the numbers are good, then you can.
it's on the north side and the south side, and it was
We'll get in there somewhere.
an easy
You
break
could,
point.
yeah, you could optionally do some other things
Yes.
to
Right,
minimize-
and you can still get the main defining gateway
Sure.
element you establish, and then you can work in the other piece that builds up
Right.
to it, so that it's
All of
naturally
us that built.
drive.
drive that one all the time, I don't like that option, but we can deal with it when we get there.
Yeah, well, we definitely like it as a
Exactly.
whole presentation
Keep
without
the-
question, but, obviously, we've got to try to make it as attainable,
Absolutely,
understanding, so.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm teasing, kind of.
I'm right there with you. Don't question that one.
Hopefully we'll get it around a really positive bid.
Right.
I'm gonna have to be a little bit contrarian. I think the 90 foot is a bit much, but of course, it's council's full decision. I just think it's a little bit too much. So I'm just putting that on record. I support whatever we all decide, but that one it just seems a little bit too big and blocky to me.
So with that said, we're moving forward, right?
Let's do it. Including John McCain.
We'll certainly take that direction and
Yeah.
have Mesa get started then, and as they develop and refine the design and get into construction document level detail, if any questions or decision points come up along the way that we need some additional feedback in, we'll come back to work session and share.
Adrian, just a quick point, and I know you talked about it before, but there's conversations going on with property, of course, we have developments going on at Main and 26 already, but there's conversation with the property owners on the different corners. Literally, all 4 of those corners right now have something exciting going on. Chick-fil-A is really on the southwest. The northeast, we've got the new restaurant Stonehouse ready to open.
Yep.
And on the southeast and the northwest, we have property owners who've expressed an interest in tying into or improving their property in line with this type of improvements that are taking place. So that intersection is transforming, and it's really being driven by this process.
Good.
And so a lot of exciting things are happening beyond just the infrastructure we're putting in.
When
When
we were waiting for
Chick-fil-A-
this, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask a separate question, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, we were actually waiting for the conversation tonight to see how the council wished to move forward before circling back with the property owner to the northwest and the southeast. Mesa has been helpful in putting together some art of the possible options
Yeah.
for how we could help improve those 2 corners and
Yeah.
what could be done to tie it into the rest of the gateway at that intersection.
Definitely think it needs it. If we're gonna do it, let's do it right.
Yeah, when is Chick-fil-A gonna start?
They're supposed to pull a permit start this month,
Okay, good.
so.
Very good, okay, so we're good with that item.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Next,
Excellent.
Could I ask just a question on when we go through the median tonight? There's there's an awful, I probably should have asked for a review before, but we'll go through the pluses and minuses and all that stuff.
Yes, Mesa will be back for that and
Yeah,
can answer
okay.
any of the detailed questions, and then Ray and I will kind of handle the upfront. This was the bidding process, this is what was received, and then
Okay.
if there's questions about any of those ad alternates, then
Okay,
absolutely we can
that's fine.
explain those.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll see y'all soon.
Second agenda item is the draft capital improvement program. Ray?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Ray Silveras, Director of Public Works. Today, I get to present to you the draft CIP for this coming fiscal year 21. And we'll start out with the all familiar slide of what is a CIP. And the CIP for the city of Colleyville is a 5-year range rolling plan that identifies city capital projects with a planning schedule and available funding options. The benefits of the CIP, one of our city's goals is to assure adequate infrastructure, which includes strategies to upgrade conditions of major roads and neighborhood streets and ensure regular replacement of water and wastewater facilities as part of our strategic plan. So this CIP allows us to make a link between the strategic plans and the city's annual budget, by supporting the city's long-term goals and vision while preserving a city infrastructures and using efficient use of the public funds. Apologies for that. Moving on to the interactive map. This is a map that was created last year to help the citizens who come to our websites to identify or look at projects that are underway. And it drills down to each individual section of projects by parks, water, wastewater, streets. So whatever they wanted to drill down to, they have the ability to look into how many projects, type of facilities are being done or planned for that CIP year. And so it's been a pretty big success this year. People have been using it. And so once this draft CIP is completed, we'll update it with the new fiscal year 21 CIP project list. Some department highlights for the facilities that we did this past year. Of course, the Plaza at City Hall. I have there the contract award was $2.7 million. We came in at what the final contract cost was 2.7. It was roughly $2,000 under there. The City Hall Library Emergency Generator, which was also part of a grant, was $364,000. We came just under 20 grand on that one. The City Hall ADA doors, which we made the front and the back side accessible for those who have any special needs. Those doors are now in place. We came right in at that cost on that one. The Central Fire Station and Fire Station 2 repairs, which included some roof work and painting the entire exterior of both buildings, came in at 221, and we came right under 219. So not much of a significant savings, but we did come within the budget that was awarded. And then, of course, the web house that was done a year ago now, enhanced that area, the corner of Shelton over there, alongside with the water tank that we have going on that's almost at completion as well.
That's a
Brett?
great slide.
I like that.
Very
One
helpful.
question,
Yes, sir.
is that with the contingency in it, the original budget?
Yeah, so, yeah, we did tap in. So the reason why we add the contingency is because there's some unforeseen things, and instead of holding the project down, we do add a little bit in there, and sometimes we do tap into it, sometimes we don't. It just depends on last minute things that we do encounter out in the field.
Yeah, I just wanted to make
So
sure
the
that
question
everyone
though
was
is,
clear.
the contract award.
Yes, the
then
contract award
includes
does,
contingency.
it does include contingency, yes.
Yeah, and you're producing a regular report now.
Yes.
Is it quarterly or monthly?
It should be monthly.
Yes.
There was a
Okay.
couple we missed, but it should be.
Yeah, we missed a couple, but
It's okay.
in the reports that you got last week, it shows in there how much we tapped into the contingency enough.
Around 35,000 below. All of them.
That's great.
Another one is for the Parks and Recreation, the city park quad shade and seating. That one's done right now. And then the ones that we just bidded or awarded just a couple months ago was for the restrooms at the Nature Center in the city park. Those are your awards, the contract amount that we awarded. I'm looking forward to those projects. I don't think they have kicked off just yet, but they're underway.
You should see Nature Center and Reagan movement here in the next week or two.
And
They
the
got it.
baseball, I assume in the fall.
They're trying to accomplish that here as quickly as possible,
Yeah.
so it may go into the early part of the fall.
I was gonna say, is there an issue with that, with the games going on and stuff?
Lisa's coordinated with all the sports associations and is trying to get the bulk of it done before any of the seasons get into full swing. but they've had lots of meetings, understanding that during the summer, there will be porta potty facilities.
I was gonna say
in the
that, too,
interim,
porta- yeah,
certainly.
that's
But I
what I
think
figured.
most of the leagues are having their seasons wrap up early July, so
Okay.
it won't be for the whole summer.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, so those will be taking place. I know we had, the engineering has to do some reviews as far as the one, especially the one in the floodplain, and so they should be kicking off here soon with construction. So the sidewalks and trails, John McCain Road Trail, I sent out on one of the Jerry's Friday's report about it's coming out to bid here soon, and we'll be presenting that to you. I believe it's the first meeting in August, I believe is when we're bringing it to you for awarding. So that project is almost near going into construction. The Nature Center Trail, which is one where we applied for a grant as well with the North Central Texas Council of Government. That one's at 30% design, but it's also gonna be one of those that we'll see what happens if the money does become available for the grants. Brantford Trail's under the design. And then as part of the miscellaneous concrete project, those three on the far right is Shelton, where we added some additional sidewalks and extended a trail along the Nature Center that needed one.
Those look fantastic. I want you to
Yeah.
know,
How they
to
do.
know that you don't have to stop and try to get out on the middle of the road. We're taking these sidewalks seriously, and I think
Yes,
that
we
looks
are.
really good.
So we were trying to find areas that had those pockets of sidewalk missing and trying to complement those and just finish them up. So that's what we
That
were
looks
trying to do.
fantastic.
That's great.
The Parks Board, who, many of them sat on the Sidewalk and Pedestrian Transportation Committee, when they received an update about a lot of these projects coming forward at their meeting, I think 2 months ago, they were very appreciative and excited. Great.
That's great.
Excellent.
For streets, you can see here, this is gonna be a mix of local street maintenance and some CIPs. But if we start out with the local street maintenance project, and all these were done with the partnership with the county, we did about 14 streets this past
Wow.
fiscal year. As you can see, they're right there, about $700,000 worth of those streets.
Those are wonderful.
And then we have the three big projects going on, the two roundabouts that are under construction right now, McDonald and McCain, both at Westco. And then, Glade Road that's about to start out here in a month or so, as soon as we can get clearance from the franchise utilities.
And we saved about 40% on all of the work
Right.
to the county, right?
Of course, yeah, there's that 40% because we put some of the,
So it's
Skin in
over $1 million, well over $1 million.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And then here to the far left, you can see the green shows the completed projects that we've done throughout the projects. The blues are the CIP or the local street maintenance projects. And then the maroonish are the design projects that we have ongoing. So we're kind of spread out all over the city.
Absolutely. That's critical.
All right, some of our department highlights for the Public Works water side. If you remember, the Overland Trail pump station demo took place and has been taken down. We did keep the pump station room back there for additional storage or something to do in case of overflow from our service center. We did get some feedback from the residents in that area saying that they want to do a pocket park. So we went ahead and tapped into the contingency and leveled and cleared out the grade on that one to help it set up
That's
for that.
great.
So that's where a good example where we use some of the contingency. The SCADA upgrades are on the way right now. That'll be able to link all the water towers and the lift stations to a central place for Public Works to know what's going on internally.
Wow, that's going to be wonderful.
Yeah. And then the towers that I was talking about, the Bransford Tower, if you've had a chance to go out there, it's almost done. We're at the landscape portion of it. The tower has been rehabbed completely, and we're just finishing up in the landscape, and we added the wrought iron fence around it.
Yeah, we have a friend that lives right over by where the demo happened on the tower, wasn't me. Throw that in. But they love the idea of what's coming. I mean, they are super ecstatic, and I'm glad to see that we're doing something with that piece of property.
I talked to the next door neighbor from there, and he is just over the moon.
Yeah, they've been waiting for something like this on that side of town, and now they're gonna get it.
Absolutely.
Mayor Pro Tem, you're talking about the little pocket park here?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then moving on to the proposed, so that was just a highlight of what's been done this past year, or still in this fiscal year, and what's up next for the next fiscal year. So again, the CIP program identifies capital projects within that 5-year window, including funding availability. The CIP also provides an opportunity to consider all the city's capital needs within that 5-year window and determine the priority of each project, as well as whether funding resources are sufficient to support those expenditures. So we'll dive into those. For 2021, we're working on the drainage, the stormwater impervious fees. So that will kind of dictate how we move on forward. But for now, we have slated $500,000 to kind of work some of the projects that we can get in there. So that's what we set aside. And then we have the floodgates improvement upgrades. One of the low water crossings, Bedford Road is gonna be one of those to be bid out here soon, to get those automated arms going, as opposed to just dispatching police or public works, whoever's available to go close those gates. So that would be a big help. On the facility side, we have a plethora of projects that are coming. I'll just highlight a couple. We have some more Central Fire Station interior renovations designed now. Now we're going into the inside, redoing the kitchens for the firemen there. Some Fire Station Bay area renovations, some Justice Center HVAC replacements, and going to some miscellaneous stuff. The parking facility department pavement markings will be done for all of our facilities. We're looking at the senior center roof replacement, and we're also looking to hire a professional architect to help us out with some professional service for the rehabilitation of the senior center, and see what's gonna happen with that one.
I did have one. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I had one question. The library's second floor replacement, I was thinking we just replaced that floor with all that new construction.
So what was missed there, yes, it did not include the second story for however it was packaged at the time. So it's just something that was left to be done at another time. It should have been all packaged together, but it's still another phase that we still have to get done.
I thought they put in new flooring up on the second floor
It's
for
just on the
the children.
Oh,
Just the
the
children's
child
section,
play
we're
area.
missing
It was
the other.
partially done.
Correct.
Where the STEAM kits and hands-on areas were done.
So you break up and you go down the left.
That's what I thought.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
what I thought I remembered. that
So we got
there
all the
was
first floor.
some work done up on the second.
So that means about 95% completely rehabbed, and once that's done, it's pretty much
It's fully
done
done.
again for years to come.
Correct.
We'll come back later and talk about the floodgate. One question.
Sure.
That seems awfully expensive to me.
For the floodgates?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What all does that include?
So it is, because there's a lot of components in there it is very expensive, if you just think about what the gate just does, but there's a lot of components in there for the communications to go up and down, for the arms, to put all the protective, preemptive stuff in there. Security, the redundancy of all the wires that go in there. It is, because I thought the same thing too, because I got a preliminary cost. I was thinking we can get it done for cheaper, but just the amount of work that has to go into to do it right,
Yeah.
there's a huge cost inside of it.
So is there also video so that when you're gonna put the arms down, you know what's going on there?
Correct. We did put video so that we can monitor and see where the water level is. So there's a lot of those components that just drive up the cost. And because they're not that much of a presence, I mean, there's just the low water crossing areas, they're very seldom in between. So they just kind of push all the money into those and just kind of rack them up a little bit. So it is a little bit more than what you would typically think just from doing regular signage.
Yeah.
Ray, how many locations did the floodgates include on this number?
So for this, we have for all 7,
Oh, okay.
yes. So each one, you're looking at about
60,000.
Yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. And we're trying to get them all in one package to see if that would help us lower that price. But once I did that, I think we're just better off just doing it one at a time and seeing what improvements we can do for each one that can be better, enhanced.
Concern we had last year was we had an individual gate that was either not secured or somehow became detached. And the gate was in a semi-open position, and a resident driving in their car in heavy rain was fortunate enough to be going slow enough. They literally hit the gate at an angle that had to be 1 in a million. The gate went through their windshield and out their driver's side window. They were going slow enough, they were able to stop. And the individual literally was able to stop. The gate was go through the windshield and out the window, and caused no harm to them. Their vehicle was damaged, but no harm to them. And from that, that really pointed out the fact that we need a more breakaway technology that is also monitored, because the floodwater presents a hazard, but the gate should not. And so this is kind of an effort to beef up our technology in a way that's much safer. We just to address that issue temporarily, we turned that gate around and put a stop so that it can't swing that way anymore.
Right, yeah.
But somebody still could, coming the other way, cross over in traffic and have that happen. Again, 1 in a million, but it was a real eye-opener for us, and it reminded us that just because we're not necessarily ready to raise the road, and deal with the crossing issue, which is a bridge elevation issue,
Right.
doesn't mean we shouldn't be looking at improvements, and that's where this kind of issue really was
Okay.
driven from.
Totally agree.
I appreciate that.
We're looking for the arms to go up and down as opposed to,
I understand,
Yeah.
sure.
The resident, in explaining it to us and providing the pictures, was unbelievably calm. I could not believe it.
They're
I've
just
got the pictures,
thankful
you're gonna
for
see them, it's
the
amazing.
loss. Yeah, absolutely.
What is the senior center rehabilitation? I mean, that's not the big project, is it?
So
No.
that's
That's
the design
hiring
work
somebody.
to engage an architect to look at that renovation option. Because the last conversation Lisa had with you all
Yes.
was given direction that we were gonna go the renovation route
Okay.
and not.
But that's the
whole
big,
thing.
it's the big project.
Yeah,
It just,
that's simply the putting
Okay.
the consultant on
just
board for
making
the
sure I
design.
understood.
It's more money, this is a design, right?
Yeah.
It's just architecture design, so it's
Yeah.
very conceptual.
Yeah, the next year, or the following 2 years, yeah.
Yeah, but based on what you all decide along with the architect's assistance,
Right.
then we'll program the cost of doing
Right.
construction.
absolutely. All right. And then the fiber optic, this is the ongoing one where we have the city of Grapevine helping us install the fiber line along 26 into all of our facilities. So we have some
Is
money
that
set
supposed to
aside.
finish?
Yeah,
21
that's
or
what I said,
22.
and just continue on forever.
Yeah, so we'll finish eventually.
Project that never ends.
We got it.
Grapevine is still working hard on that.
Grapevine is still working.
It's like one of the first things on our agenda when we got in.
Tie it together.
It's coming.
Are we gonna give them the money before we get the optic?
No, we'll hold it before once they put it in the ground for us.
How long has that been
We're
going?
carrying that, cause yeah, we do.
It's
It's one of the first things
Yeah.
on
We're carrying that.
the agenda when we got in.
Good.
Yeah. Some of the parks and recs, we have the city park pickleball court that we talked about back over here. Some softball shade structures and playground improvements. Skip down to the park house demo and site preparation for the building back here. And then, of course, we got the parkway tree removal and replacement. Again, that's just the tree trimming that we do along the major thoroughfares. And then if we do identify through our tree specialist a tree that's dead, we remove it through that contract right there.
And that program started last year, we got a lot of positive comments on it.
Yeah,
Yeah, they've done a great job too.
yeah.
I mean, good clean cuts, didn't look like you just hacked it up. I mean, it looks like they lifted the canopies to keep the trees beautiful, so.
Yep, they did a good job. And sidewalk trails, which I talked about earlier, we have the Brantford Road Trail that's gonna go into construction for next year. The John McCain Road Trail construction should be awarding here in a couple of weeks. And then the ongoing miscellaneous concrete rehabilitation.
How long is that project gonna take, the John McCain Road Trail?
That one should be from 4 to 6 months, because it's just straight trails with there is some fence relocations that will have to be done, and a little bit of culvert work in there for the storm drainage, but.
Quite a bit of culvert work.
There's a good section that will have a little bit.
Huge. It's gonna be a huge culvert.
Yeah, but it should be right around 4 to 6 months construction.
So with the roundabout at John McCain and Westcote, there's gonna be a little bit of sidewalk put in right now, right?
Correct.
Is that
That's part, we took that on with that roundabout, because that culvert right there, just east of that intersection right there needed some improvement as well
And
too.
the rest will connect,
The rest will go from Stillwater over there, McPherson Park,
okay,
connect all the way to the Cottonville Trail.
okay.
That's gonna be
They can
nice.
overlap, those projects can overlap a little bit.
They can't catch a break where she is.
Not in construction limits, they're not overlapping with each other, but they will connect to each other.
Yeah, but
That's
yeah,
great. That's good. I think it's
To answer
great.
your question, it's an October 1st post.
Okay, so it's
fiscal year
post, okay.
project, and so you probably will be finishing one while you're starting the other.
And I see on here, City Park softball field shade structure and playground. Are y'all planning on putting a playground on that end?
So softball had requested some similar improvements to what had been done over here in the baseball quad area, and so Lisa has been working with them, designing some similar quad type improvements, and they had specifically requested some kind of minor play equipment in
Great.
that area,
That's
so that's kind of the next step to
would
gradually
like to see
improve
it
all of
Send
them.
my kids down there.
Yeah.
King had promised.
I can see.
Yeah, and
If you went down there during the kids'
there was also comments in the past about the potential to extend a culvert pipe and fill in an area that is over, and it will
There
allow for a
was.
practice facility that may or may not be a major undertaking as far as stormwater management. It's more just a culvert.
We've got the
fill in.
pipe,
No,
we got the
had
dirt.
that- We had that conversation, and
Yes.
softball actually did not prefer that location. So Lisa has been working with them
Where are we
to,
gonna warm up at?
no, I think there's some other projects in that area
Okay.
that I don't think were quite at this CIP level that she's working on as well. But no, she's been working in close coordination with that board.
All right.
This mean
Well, I
more?
have 2 more years and my kid's out of it anyway.
Forget it, yeah, forget it.
All right.
I'll just tease.
For the street side, we have the ongoing Cheeksburger Road from Sandbar to Brown Trail. I spoke with TxDOT last week. They are getting ready to let that project in September. So that means that if everything goes well, TxDOT should be under construction by January. So
Hey,
that's a
Ray.
long-awaited project, yes, sir.
Related to that project, did TxDOT ever settle out the funding for 26 that was related to that? Remember there was a funding for landscaping improvements?
For the green ribbon funding?
Yes.
What I remember, what they said is for the next, which I think they canceled it, it was canceled this year because of the COVID, that we would have to reapply, and that money would be dedicated to us.
Yeah,
But it didn't go through this year.
140-something thousand.
So when do we,
Yeah, it was like
Let's make sure we
100 it was
reapply.
170
Now,
somewhere.
when
Lose track of
Yeah,
us.
it's 172.
Bottom line is we want to make sure we get our money.
yeah.
Stand in the front of the line.
Absolutely. And then the ongoing flashing lights for pedestrian crossings, which we identify, I think it was 75 crosswalks that don't have pedestrian activated buttons. And so those will be ongoing, we'll be installing those over the next couple of years.
Got a lot of compliments on those too.
Those are amazing, they're tremendous help.
The Glade Road Phase 2 and the Glade Road at Blue Bonnet Drive. Right now, so Glade Road has been awarded, they're getting ready, they're doing all their prep work right now. Franchise Utilities relocating, and then we're on the heels of them with the Glade Road at Blue Bonnet Drive. Everything's going fine with design, along with TxDOT. They're hoping to award the money to us by October 1st, so that we can go out to bid and see, hopefully line those projects up. Maybe they won't be as far, they won't be too separated from each other as we move forward with that project. Okay, and then also the State Highway 26 beautification, like the one that we got coming in for the regular session, the corridor enhancement. And then also that's a multi-year project as well, same with Glade Road. And then the ongoing street maintenance with the county. And then we may hopefully use the county again if we'll pick up our streets again. They've been a good contractor to work with as opposed to some of the other contractors we use. So we're hoping to continue that partnership with them. Some of the wastewater projects, we have 3, the Woodbriar and Quail Crest subdivision. These are mainly designs, some rehabilitation, some priority 2 manholes, and then a Quail's Path design. For the water side, we'll be looking at overlapping with some of those wastewater projects as well for design. And then the Water Project 10 Apple Valley water lines and road rehabilitation is almost near completion with design. And so we'll get that project under construction for next fiscal year.
What's that a picture of right there, that water line?
The drain, isn't it? Sewer?
It looks, that's a water line right there. I don't know where exactly it's at, but I
That's
know
a water line?
that's the gate valve right there as they're trenching through a concrete street right there.
2 gate valves on
And that's
Great,
my preview of the CIP draft. If there's anything that you guys didn't see that
tremendous
should
job.
be added in there, let me know.
It's exciting, good stuff.
Very
A lot of work.
You
Thank
did a
so
really
much.
good
Great
job
presentation.
presenting it, Ray.
it. Yeah,
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I mean, it's very concise, it's very to the point, and I mean,
Very impressive.
appreciate that.
In your packet, Ray and his team have developed this booklet that summarizes all the projects and provides detail, and it'll be available on our website. And so this is a great tool to share with HOAs
Sure
or
is.
interested residents, because they can actually dial into the areas they're concerned about.
Will you let us know, will you make sure we know when it's posted so we can share the link with
Yes,
people?
as soon as we get it
Yeah,
through
perfect,
council, I'll let you know.
perfect.
That's just,
And
Thank you.
And one thing I'll be remiss is my staff spent some time putting this together for y'all, and I wanted to leave this here with you. These are some of the CIP projects that we have done
yes,
this fiscal year, so I'll just leave that there so you guys can gaze at
That's
it.
great.
Cool. Mayor, when I go on his desk, gets a trophy.
Very good.
Hey, Ray, let's make sure we get that out in our e-news this Friday
Okay,
with an article
That's
about
awesome.
it and then a link to it so they can look at it on the website.
okay, we can do that for sure.
Also, set it in
job.
the entryway.
All the hard work for all years, you guys
Absolutely.
have been amazing.
Great.
I have a good team, so I appreciate it. Thank you guys.
Very
Absolutely.
good.
It's an excellent job.
Very good. Brings us up to 3, discussion of landscape design for Glade Road Riverwalk.
All right, I'm back. We haven't talked about this one in a while.
Yeah.
So at our last conversation, this was a couple of months ago now, so we might have to refresh our memories a little bit. We were contemplating what sort of landscape design and sculpture should go over at the new Glade and Riverwalk roundabout. So certainly you're familiar with that location. And this was the original, kind of just from an engineer perspective, layout, just to understand how that's gonna look. And then at our last conversation, we had a variety of sculptures and just ideas of, do we wanna go nature themed? I think we had one citizen that had quite a few suggestions that I shared with you all, and we had really narrowed it down at the last meeting, that the council's preference was one of these two, with the leapfrog being the top pick in terms of favorites.
Got
So-
another suggestion.
Another one?
Yeah, eagle.
An eagle? Should we just copy the one for the Justice Center?
I want an eagle.
I remember that conversation fondly. So we took a look at these and worked with our landscape team that we often work with. They are much more creative than I could ever be in this arena. They've got all the bright ideas and, you know, how we could come up with something that might fit in that space that works. And so I've got some images. I think I've got a couple to share with you.
Because that looks tiny right
It does
there.
look tiny.
Yes, it's a little difficult to
Assuming
see from this perspective. And then when you zoom in just a little bit, you get a little bit better of a view. I think
It's not really that big, is it?
no, and the roundabout really isn't particularly
almost-
large to begin with.
Oh,
No.
Off the scale.
And so we had talked about the idea of whether to have water or not, and so the general consensus was that we liked the idea of implicating that there's a stream or creek bed there without having live water, similar to what we talked about at one of our other ones.
Yeah.
So, you know, the image here was kind of playing leapfrog with lily pads and that kind of thing, and so, you know, this raises up just a little bit. The proposal here is a little bit interesting and different. A lot of our other roundabouts where we had to retrofit them have that masonry wall that we adjusted and made it look a little bit less like a wedding cake and modernized it just a little bit. So this one is a little bit different in that it actually takes that ground level and insets that curve where the stone is kind of an inset wall that raises and gives it a little bit of height. I
That's
thought that was an
nice.
attractive feature, a little bit something
Where
different.
do cars go? Am I missing something here?
I'm sorry?
Outside the red,
Right.
Yes, so outside of that, so certainly, if we were doing this here, the walls would be inset. So it's not a large,
the
Is that the
gray is the
scale?
red on the next one.
I'm sorry?
The gray is the red on the next one. There-
Correct.
That red is the gray on the previous.
Okay, so out to that little white edge. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that to scale?
I don't think so.
Feels like it's
That's
upscale.
That one probably is.
So, no, I mean, I think this is not, this is a landscape, put together for general concept, not an engineered drawing.
So
This
really the
is-
statue's not what we should be focused on at this
It's
meeting.
just, is this a general feel for what you'd like, in terms of working with the statue that was the.
You have the dimensions again? It's
The
about
dimensions
20
of the
feet or
roundabout, I don't know
so?
if I've got the full dimensions of the roundabout.
That'd be bigger.
I think in one of our, you know what, I may have
Had
had that in one of our
before,
previous presentations.
On the other
Yeah,
roundabouts, and it helped a lot.
yeah, I've got, my last presentation saved, I may have that noted in here, let me see if I've got that. No, that's John McCain Westcoat. Let's see.
Because the only thing that counts is really the raised part, right?
Yes,
Because otherwise,
yes,
because trucks actually have to run over that.
Yeah, I
Dark
guess
gray
like-
is mountable. The dark gray.
yeah, I don't have the measurements on that one. I can get you the measurements,
I think the
I'll
red
send
is
that out
where
to
it's
you all.
supposed to be
That
mountable, but
big
it's
to have
perfectly.
this much, it
And-
seems like.
Yeah, I'll send that.
I
Is there
feel
only
like
It looks like a
6
bit
inches?
smaller than we think.
Yeah.
Just like she
Yes,
said,
it's
that's
quite
not
a
an
bit. I blew it up for the purposes of having it, you know, viewable
Just a
on
thought
the screen.
process.
But certainly if you zoom out and put that in that much smaller interior of the roundabout, it's not gonna appear that big.
Yeah,
Was
right.
there another proposal or is it just the one that we're evaluating?
So that was the one that we were getting some initial feedback on simply because that leapfrog was the top pick. If we're not loving the layout of that, we can have them come back with some other alternatives, but wanted to just get some feedback in terms of, you know, the overall layout of the roundabout now that we'd honed in on a little bit more on the sculptures.
I think that, my opinion, is that that sculpture's gonna work, and here's the only reason I think that it's gonna be fine, because if you go too big, that roundabout's not gonna be a very big roundabout.
No.
And you gotta look through a bigger sculpture to the other side of oncoming traffic. And so that's the only reason I would be nervous about sticking something big and grandiose right there in that area.
Right.
I do like that. Can we do, was that water feature that was there, was that real water or was that water that went along with the statue? Can you go back to that one, Adrian?
Oh, that's
that's
actually
real.
from the website from the company that makes the
That's
sculpture.
real water, but
Yeah, that's real.
But can they do a fake a look like water kind of thing?
So I think the idea would be that as we build up the rock, and this is clearly not as, high quality of an image, but the way those rocks are placed, it would be similar, effect
them.
once we lay those
And
out
it'll
to
look
how
a little
that's
bit like
placed.
Water, riverbed or something.
Yeah, it's
Something
more of a
more
dry creek bed
That
rather
looks
than
like a
live water.
pebbles than the rocks, so.
Right.
But the water's there on purpose in that picture,
Yes.
because it makes the picture come alive even more.
Mhm.
And so if you're going to do a dry riverbed with that statue, you will lose some of that luster if you don't have. And so you either need to elevate it, or you need a pop of something in there that catches your eye, whether it's color or
I
some
think,
other.
I think if we did something with a different size rock and maybe some lighting effect would.
To give
would
it kind of
get
that
there.
volume and, right,
Yeah,
absolutely.
but yeah, we definitely need something that's completely different from the rock to make that all look
Up.
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
way.
But even if you put in a simple recirculation design here with water, you're gonna have maintenance problems.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're trying to avoid the live water. I know that was a concern of
I'm not a fan
y'all's.
of water.
It's pretty, but certainly
Can you go back to the overall, the
the actual.
proposal? So one thing I'm having I don't know why, I'm just having a hard time visualizing the whole thing. I think this could be great. But one thing I really like about it is that there's a lot of greenery. I feel like some of our roundabouts are kind of Spartan, and it's not a look I care for. So I think this one
I like
brings
the
a lot of
colors.
color without having a lot of maintenance. I don't think, that's probably an ivy or something is what they were thinking.
I think it's some ground.
A ground creeper or something, yeah.
But definitely greenery.
Well, Adrian, one thing we could do is we could come back with the actual rendering of the
Dimensions.
intersection with the dimensions on it and
And
the
overlay it.
actual overlaid. So
To
you can
scale.
take this drawing
Sure.
and put all of the details
Sure.
on it. And then incorporate some of the landscape kind of cutouts, if you will, and then the statues in the middle, and talk about how that landscaping and that rock design complement each other so that the dry riverbed works with the, interior landscaping.
Yeah.
I think that would be great. I think
Perfect.
it sounds like
That's
all
what
of us,
we
but
need, I
it sounds like I'm having a hard time just visualizing it in that setting. But
We'll
I
get
think
it
it looks
overlaid.
like it'll
into-
come together.
Yeah, we'll
really
get it
nice.
overlaid in that exhibit and send that back out to y'all and see if that
Yeah,
helps
I
with
like
the
it.
And I'm
perspective.
assuming that picture is really tiny compared to, it's not really scale at all, the statue.
Oh, correct.
I don't think so.
The other thing you might wanna consider is that when you start looking at the stone that you're gonna use, maybe find something that transitions from 26 stone and picks up the neighboring, structure stone. If
Yeah.
you have so much stone in that area, you can pick it up and complement it,
Absolutely.
then it'll kind of blend the two as you
Sure.
transition away from that corner.
All right. Well, we'll get that updated image out to you guys and see if we're in agreement, and we can bring it back to work session if we need to.
Good.
Yeah, Adrian, one last thing, can we also take the layout of that roundabout, the graphic that you have, and then overlay on it an actual one like a Glade or, these other locations so that we have, or maybe Cheeks Barger, so you can have it comparable as to their size comparison.
Yeah, we'll get the dimensions too, and I think that'll help.
Because that smaller statue at Glade and Jackson is really powerful because of the pop of the color in the flag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a small statue in a small roundabout medium, but it works because of the color, so understanding the scale helps a lot.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Will do.
Since we're on the roundabout, can I pass along a thank you to you guys and the staff? Knowing that they're putting their job shack trailer down there in that empty lot and stuff, one of the citizens back there said that you guys have been really helpful in helping them keep that division in between his yard and the people that are gonna be doing the work, so he said kudos to you guys, and I just wanted to pass that along.
Because I saw that the other day and I wasn't sure what that was, so.
Yeah.
That clears it up.
They're laying their rock down for their construction yard.
Yeah, okay.
Good.
Our team has been very good. Thanks, Ray.
I'll let them know.
Thank you.
Okay, agenda item 4, we had set a date for our goal-setting session of the 13th, and my fault, I need to go see my dad this weekend and be gone most of that week probably, so I need to see if we can find another date, push it out a little bit, and reschedule
Sure.
that I apologize for that, but let's all look at our calendars. So the 13th, we had it on a Monday. I'm gonna take a shot. Is it possible to do it the next Monday, the 20th?
You all had it scheduled, I believe, from about 12 to 4 on that Monday.
Yeah. Or,
I don't see any reason why I can't
So,
do that next Monday.
or-
I can do the next
oh, you
Monday.
can,
Yeah.
okay.
What's the
All right.
date?
I have
We're-
something I
It's
can't
the
do.
20th.
The 20th.
Instead of the 13th.
I'm
Oh, I can't do the 20th.
Okay.
That's the first
What,
weekend.
so, moving on in that week, what other days might you guys are,
The week of the 20th?
pardon?
The week of the 20th? Is that the week you're
Yeah,
asking
let's,
about?
let's start there if we can.
I'm good on the 24th.
24, okay.
It's on a Friday.
Yeah, it's a Friday, but
I can do 24th. I can't do the 23rd.
We could do it if we do it in the morning on the Friday.
Kelly, what were you saying?
You out that
No.
week?
I don't even have a lot on my agenda, but the days that you are picking are the only
What
times
days
I
are
have.
open?
Well, let's do it the following month. What about the
Yeah, just not that weekend, that Friday,
27th?
Friday.
and starting that Friday.
I can change it.
22nd,
21st, 22nd, 23rd, I'm fine.
Okay.
Chuck, you'd be the next person.
Chuck, you,
I cannot the 23rd, but I can the 22nd.
the 21st we have council, so that would probably not be a great day.
Just make a full day
22nd?
of it.
Right now, I could do the 22nd.
Is it, Chuck, especially for your schedule, would it be better if it was later in the day, or it was at noon? That's why I'm asking what works better for you.
The 22nd, I'm clear all day, so
Okay.
it doesn't matter
I'm
to
good.
me.
I'm open as
We're
well.
doing this during the day?
pardon?
We're doing this during the day, is that what you were just saying?
That's when it was scheduled.
Okay.
Yeah. George,
22nd? Yeah, I'm fine.
22nd? Okay, time, morning, afternoon preferences from anybody?
Afternoon is always a preference.
Afternoon's always a preference, okay. 22nd?
We'll get it scheduled.
Thank
That
you.
same 12 o'clock.
What
time?
Right to lunch.
She's gonna, afternoon is what?
You'll send us a.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Oh,
Send it to
okay.
you.
We'll send it
She'll
out.
send us a.
Because I was going
Okay,
to.
so,
All right, delete Monday.
yeah,
Reschedule my day off.
we're good.
Okay.
Wait, I gotta change this so I don't forget.
We're supposed to go on vacation next week. I changed it to Monday.
Okay, very good. Okay, so tonight, last thing is, on our agenda, we have, 4 first reading ordinances, actually all on variances for rents. And then, the 2 table ordinances, which is Blue Bonnet will stay tabled, they're not ready yet.
Okay.
We haven't had the meeting with the citizens, so,
We have another meeting with Blue Bond next week as well.
next week,
So
okay.
hopefully finalize it.
Okay. And then after, one resolution, which is our electioneering one that we've talked a couple of times, so we're ready to vote on it, and that's it. So maybe we'll
Wow, we'll be out of
do
there
it
by
quick.
9.
I show mouth.
Pretty good.
At all your places, there was additional information on 2 of those ordinances, packets provided to you.
Yes, thank you.
Information
Yeah.
that came after.
Oh, yeah, I did talk to, I don't know if he said anything, but Mr. Day called me about a couple of things, but one of them was specifically, he's against the Shelton variance. as
His
an
letter is in
argument.
there.
I saw
Thank you.
that. I saw that.
Hey, and thank you for laying this table out to where we can be socially, with our distance and stuff like that, where we don't have to wear a mask if we don't want to.
Yeah.
So just want to.
Okay, anything else for the work session?
We're thinking we should make.
All right, I'm going to adjourn the work session, and we're now moving into executive session in accordance with Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, Subchapter D, Section 551.071 Legal, Section 551.072 Real Estate, Section 551.074 Personnel, Section 551.087 Economic Development. We're now in executive session. Very good.